The afternoon sun cast a golden glow across the sprawling city and the lobby of the Grand Meridian. A five-star hotel known for its marble floors and glittering chandeliers buzzed with the quiet confidence of wealth. Adrian Kovac walked in with the kind of arrogance that only comes from years of believing nothing could ever touch him. His arm was draped casually around the waist of a much younger woman, her laughter light and rehearsed, echoing beneath the high ceilings as though she were auditioning for a role in his life that wasn't hers to claim. He checked them in with a smirk, certain that he had built walls so high around his double life that no one could ever climb them. What he didn't know was that those very walls were about to come crashing down in the most humiliating, soul-shattering way imaginable. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of fate to turn even the darkest moments into lessons of light, then take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Always Kind. Because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It's a reminder that sometimes life itself has a way of revealing truths we try hardest to hide. Adrian had always been seen as the man who had it all: a successful real estate developer, a fleet of luxury cars, and a marriage to one of the most graceful women in the city, Helena Kovac. Helena was elegance personified, known for her poise and her quiet kindness. She had stood by Adrian's side through years of struggle when their business was nothing more than a fledgling dream. Together, they had worked late nights, poured every penny into their company, and once even sold their wedding rings just to pay the staff. But when success finally came, it seemed to change Adrian more than either of them could have foreseen. Success made him restless. Instead of gratitude, he grew hungry for validation, for attention, for thrills that Helena's steady love couldn't give him. The woman on his arm that day was Leora, a young interior designer he had met at one of his construction sites. She was fiery, ambitious, and intoxicating in her rebellion against anything ordinary. To Adrian, she represented youth, danger, and the thrill of breaking rules. He convinced himself he deserved both worlds: Helena's steady devotion at home and Leora's wild passion in secret. That afternoon at the Grand Meridian, Adrian's laughter blended with Leora's as they entered their suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the skyline, and champagne waited in a chilled bucket. Adrian thought himself untouchable, safe in his carefully crafted lie. But at that very moment, across the hotel, the real storm was brewing, one that he never anticipated. For months, Helena had known something was wrong. Adrian's late-night excuses, the perfume that wasn't hers on his shirts, the way his eyes darted when she asked simple questions, it all added up. But Helena wasn't the kind of woman who exploded in rage or demanded answers. She was patient. She observed, and she quietly began taking steps of her own. What Adrian didn't know was that while he was chasing fleeting illusions, Helena had been pursuing something lasting. With the savings she had secretly invested years ago, Helena had partnered with an international group of investors. And just 2 weeks earlier, Helena Kovac had become the new owner of the Grand Meridian. It was destiny's cruel poetry that Adrian chose that hotel for his betrayal. Helena walked into the lobby that afternoon dressed in a tailored ivory suit, her hair swept back, her face calm but unreadable. The staff bowed respectfully, whispering, "Madam Owner," as she passed. She smiled politely, her heart steady even though she knew the possibility of what she might find within her walls. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was looking for truth, for a moment that would either break her or set her free. When she entered the private dining area to greet a group of investors, her eyes caught a reflection in the tall mirror across the room. There he was, Adrian, laughing as Leora clung to his arm, guiding her toward the restaurant inside the hotel. Helena froze, not because she was surprised, but because the moment had finally arrived. The lie was no longer shadow and suspicion. It stood before her in broad daylight, brazen and unashamed. Adrian saw her almost instantly. His laughter stopped mid-breath, his face draining of color. The wine glass slipped slightly in his hand, the mask of confidence he had worn for so long shattering into pieces. For a long moment the three of them stood suspended in silence: Adrian, the cheating husband; Leora, the oblivious mistress; and Helena, the wife who now held not just the keys to his heart, but the deed to the very ground beneath his feet. The humiliation was written all over Adrian's face. He had walked into this hotel thinking it was his playground, only to discover it was Helena's kingdom. Every word he wanted to speak stuck in his throat. He tried to force a smile, to pretend this was some kind of accident, But Helena's calm, unwavering gaze stripped him of any excuse. Helena didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't cause a scene. Instead, she stepped closer, her heels clicking against the marble floor with authority. Her voice was steady, almost gentle, as she greeted the investors and then, without once looking at Adrian, announced, "Welcome to the Grand Meridian. As the new owner, it is my honor to ensure this place always reflects integrity, excellence, and trust." The words cut deeper than any insult could have, because Adrian knew they weren't just for the investors, they were for him. From that moment on, Adrian's world began to unravel. The investors noticed his discomfort, the staff whispered about his fall from grace, and even Lyora began to distance herself, realizing she had been nothing more than a shadow in a story far bigger than her. Adrian left the hotel that day feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. But Helena's journey didn't stop there. She poured her heart into the hotel, transforming it into a sanctuary of kindness and opportunity. She hired single mothers who needed work, young people eager for a chance, and older staff who had been discarded elsewhere. Every corner of the hotel reflected her values, her strength, and her belief that no matter how much pain life handed you, you could always choose dignity over despair. Adrian, meanwhile, faced the bitter truth of his own actions. His business began to falter, deals slipped through his fingers, and the people who once admired him now turned away. He tried to win Helena back, showing up at the hotel with flowers, letters, and pleas for forgiveness. But Helena didn't let anger guide her. She listened, she nodded, but she never once stepped backward. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant letting go of the hold his betrayal had over her. One quiet morning, months later, Adrian sat alone in the hotel cafe, staring at the life he had lost. Helena walked by, radiant as ever, her presence commanding respect without needing to demand it. For the first time, Adrian truly saw her, not just as the woman he had married, but as the powerhouse she had become. And in that moment, he realized that his greatest mistake wasn't simply the affair. It was failing to see the treasure he already had until it was too late. Life has a way of teaching us lessons through heartbreak. Adrian's fall became a warning to others, but Helena's rise became an inspiration. People spoke of her not as the wife who had been betrayed, but as the woman who had turned pain into power, who had built a kingdom of grace from the ruins of deception. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Always Kind. Stories like these remind us that dignity and kindness are not weaknesses. They are the strongest weapons we have against betrayal and cruelty. And before we close, here's a special request: share in the comments what lesson this story taught you. Your words might be the light someone else needs to read today. Because at the end of it all, Helena's story isn't just about betrayal. It's about the unshakable strength that comes when you choose self-respect over sorrow and grace over revenge. It's a reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living a life so full of dignity, others can only watch in awe.